Hello and welcome to the Virtues Museletter. This is week number 11, and I am your host, Barbara McKenzie. Before we get started, let me remind you that this podcast is about the exploration and integration of the virtues, mixing the spirit of virtues with the body of our own intelligence, bridging the connection between body, mind, and spirit synergy, which culminates into my soul, me, myself, and I, and all of what that means in this crazy world. So let's get in there. All this week, I've been focused on the virtue of enthusiasm, and I've discovered some interesting components within myself. And this week, as I'm recording, I realize that it's a struggle. Today, enthusiasm is not so easy to reach, and I have to dig down really deep. And that makes it challenging. And I don't think it is a procrastination as much as it is a force field in a way. So I'm breaking through to find my enthusiasm, and I have to do a practice and a process in which to conjure it up when it's low. So this is my experience as I enter into this recording. The irony that here I am to talk about enthusiasm, but I'm not bringing the enthusiasm that I believe I am capable of exuding. And so I have to look at, why is that? And I really think it's because I've been steeping in my stuff. And I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it because I am processing and I'm learning and I'm discovering and I'm unburdening my heart of things that being my light dulled down. So as I am thinking about enthusiasm, the art I'm creating right now is a sculpture, 3-dimensional multimedia. Again, I'm using old coffee filters that have been dried, and I will eventually be using old coffee. And so years ago, I went through a few months where I was saving coffee filters and the coffee that we were brewing and drinking. And I knew that one day I would make art out of it. In that wisdom, it's just been sitting waiting. And when this project came up, I was like, yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So at the end of my therapy session, my therapist said, how are you feeling, or something to that effect. And immediately I was hit with this sense that I feel like I've been sitting in a bath of my own goo, and I'm just steeping in it. So there's no more getting clean from it. It's just soaking off the buildup. And so the visual gave me an art project idea, which I have started. And for my Substack subscribers, you can look down, see the images of what I've produced so far. So go enjoy that. And next week, hopefully I'll be done, and the final pictures will be available for you to see. But the idea of steeping in it is really how I feel. And I think enthusiasm in some ways gets sort of bogged down when we are steeping in our stuff. But this podcast is not about that. So let's get on and do our virtues pick for our focus this week. And just before we move on, this week I've been reflecting on middle school years and just remembering stories of myself as a child, grade 7, grade 8. Some of the memories I have of my experience. I just, the enthusiasm I have and I feel comes from other people, artists and poets, just who inspire my enthusiasm. It's contagious, and also how enthusiasm can wrap around the world in things like the Oscar Awards, and in things like all week I've been watching Jamie Lee Curtis honoring her co-workers and her staff and all of the team and the hundreds of people. And she's just so wonderful at pointing the spotlight on other people and raising that enthusiasm. One of my new favorite poets, Andrea Gibson, I'm going to put the link in the Substack information. So anybody else is just going to have to Google her name. She just released something that I find is completely brilliant, and I'm hoping she'll respond to my email because I enthusiastically reached out to her. So we'll see in the upcoming weeks how that transpires. Okay, moving on now. I am shuffling my deck of 100 Virtues Reflection cards. Show up for us this week. It is discernment. Discernment is accessing the wisdom of our intuition to discover what is essential and true. Detaching from our desire to rush decisions, we seek to distinguish the true from the false, the facts from our assumptions, and then choose the best path. Reflecting in silence creates space for our deepest perceptions. With contemplative vigilance, we open ourselves to clarity. We listen deeply for the true questions, trusting that the answer will unfold and reveal itself when the time is right. We become alert to the messages that come in subtle and surprising ways. We hold decisions lightly until the truth emerges. Discernment empowers us to be guided by grace. On the back of the card, there's a quote by Paulo Freire that says, "Reflection and action must never be undertaken independently." The practice of discernment. I trust my inner vision. I seek full information. I release the pressure to decide by determination alone. I take time for reflection and prayer. I hone my intuition. I am alert to the signs placed in my path. I am open to revelation. I am thankful for the gift of discernment. It leads me to the truth. Let me begin with the visual, which is a beautiful landscape. It has a green base to the card, and there's some red and white blossoms that you can see going off in a like a blanket across the field, and then it just ends. There's a horizon. And what speaks to me about this visual is that I don't know what's on the other side of that horizon, and that's okay. Discernment helps me to get there every step of the way, taking me forward. Discernment is there and part of my process. And what I didn't say about my reflections on enthusiasm was just in feeling the reality and the depth of my experience and how science and medicine is sort of coming together now with traditional teachings of the soul, and how the health of the body and the health of the soul are not any different. In fact, they rely upon one another. And also in my therapy last week, and acknowledging that the wisdom within me and the enthusiasm that I had for life was a discernment. So I'm bringing it up now because of this discernment card, acknowledging that I had a wisdom within me that was protecting me, that was my little gatekeeper, keeping me safe. And soaking in it has helped me soften the layers and in dissolving those old beliefs and messages that I received as a child. And And I say that because of the sexual abuse and the gaslighting and the narcissism that I experienced from certain individuals. I feel myself returning at some level to the purity of my innocence, of that little one that experienced horrific things all those years ago. And that brings me a lot of peace. It brings me a lot of joy. And it feels like it fortifies my essence. It fuels me, which helps build my enthusiasm. As you can probably hear in my voice now, even just talking about it, it's an empowerment. And so discernment, to me, it's like a voice. It's like the voice of my soul. It's not so much my practice of discernment that matters, but it's my listening to the wisdom from within and making decisions about my life based on that discernment. So that's one thing that's jumping out for me at the moment. I feel like it's actually perfect that I entered this with a lack of enthusiasm. And right now I'm feeling super empowered. And just the idea of discernment, the wisdom living within me, and me being a co-creator in this experience with the divine. So if discernment is an angel, then it is within my right and power and my capacity as a human to utilize this gift and this expression of the creator. So I trust my inner vision, absolutely. I seek full information, not all the time. So there's an opportunity to grow. I release the pressure to decide by determination alone, absolutely. I take time for reflection and prayer daily and multiple times a day if I'm praying for other people, which I do, by the way. So if you're looking for prayers, I'd be honored to put your name on my prayer altar. I am open to the signs placed in my path and open to revelation. It's my truth. It is my truth. It always has been. If you're looking at the card, check out that little white flower. It kind of looks like one of those Queen Anne's lace. And I do see that there's more than one, but when I started this sentence, I only saw the one. And I was going to point out that that feels like me in this, field of others. So if you're feeling like a single individual flower in a field of other flowers, then we're on the same page in that regard. But discernment, I think, has been a guide and a gift for me all my life. And I have been tapping into the wisdom that discernment has allotted me. And I believe I've been blessed by that. And I certainly am grateful. Questions for my journal will be, what is my next best step? What do I need to hear that I'm not seeing? What is clouding my judgment at this time? Assuming that there are clouds in my judgment. So that's me on the virtue of discernment this week. And again, I just want to acknowledge the Virtues Project and the founders of the Virtues Project for this beautiful body of work and the resources you've provided. This particular deck of cards is my favorite. You can get your deck at virtuesshop.com, or it comes in an app at virtuesmatter.com. Thanks for being here, and I hope you have a wonder-filled week.